Leaders are often in uncharted territory. And so we talk about it as the mind of the scientist, and different people talk about it different ways. That when I've worked with clients who are researchers, they don't look at an experiment that didn't go as planned as failure. They look at it as learning. I mean, literally, I have a hypothesis, I'm proving or disproving. And if I am inaccurate, the quicker I disprove my hypothesis, the quicker I'm moving on to the next solution. I love seeing people shift from, I have to have a plan and I have to have it all thought out, to what's our experiment, because it accelerates their progress and it removes that thing that especially we as successful adults have about we don't want to be wrong.
Here's where I think we need to make a fundamental change. Too many organizations allow this culture to persist, and it's going to kill them. And that's this gotcha mentality. It's the mentality that someone has to lose for you to win. It's that inability to create a fail-safe environment where from the top down, it is okay to experiment. I've always said that I've learned more from my failures than from my successes, but that came with a price, right? That came with the political people who do nothing and sit on the sidelines and say, I told you this wasn't going to work. Right? It came from, leaders who were very unsure about how to navigate the outcomes and the impact of things when they didn't go properly. And so I think it's an entire corporate culture issue to create this environment, because you can have it in pockets, and those are the pockets that are going to be significantly more successful than leaders who don't know how to manage this way. But at the end of the day, it's a systemic issue. And if we can't, as leaders and as top leaders within the organization, create this environment where you have an equal amount of accountability and empowerment to go along with it, right? Because I've yet to find many organizations that are really good at the accountability piece, right? Empowerment, yes. Accountability, that gets a little more difficult. And so it's a complex problem to solve for. But if we can do that one leader at a time, if we can start with the top leaders to create that fail-safe environment, to show vulnerability when they make mistakes. How many times have you ever heard an executive in a town hall saying, I screwed up? Like, we don't hear that. We all know it. We're not fooling anyone. They're human. And let's face it, the landscape is changing so rapidly that amazing decisions that are made in the moment could quickly go to the worst decision ever based on external conditions that you could never have anticipated or controlled. And so that's my riff on this, right? In terms of it's great from a conceptual perspective. And, we see pockets of leadership doing that, but we're hard pressed to find organizations that can do that in a holistic way that's healthy and profitable, right? Because at the end of the day, you don't want mistakes to cost you too much money.
And that's where I like the language again of experimentation. Good scientists have not killed themselves in their labs. They've not blown themselves up. They're not dead. Their equipment still persists. So we do controlled experiments and then we roll things out. And I love your point of there are cultures and systems. So our culture has to promote fail safe, and our performance management systems, our accountability systems, all of that structure around what we reward and what we punish and what we encourage and what we discourage has to also align with this idea. And then leaders need to lead from the top and say, this is what I want. This is what I expect. And here's an example of where I succeeded, where I failed. Here are the experiments we're running. And then ensure that, again, the guardrails are appropriate and are being adjusted when conditions change, because conditions are changing often now. And we need to ensure that we're giving people revised instructions as the world gets more complex, or just as our situation changes.